Maya Chen had always been a light sleeper. But lately, her dreams had weight. They pressed against her consciousness like stone tablets, heavy with meaning she couldn't decipher. Every morning she'd wake in her cramped Chicago apartment with fragments of impossible visions clinging to her mind-vast underground chambers, rivers of molten gold, and a voice that spoke in languages that predated words. She blamed it on stress. Graduate school in archaeology was demanding enough without her subconscious manufacturing elaborate fantasies about civilizations that never existed. But as she sat in the university library that Tuesday morning, cross-referencing Mesopotamian burial practices with her advisor's latest dig reports, the dreams felt more real than the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. "You look like hell," said Derek, sliding into the chair across from her. Her research partner was perpetually cheerful, which normally irritated Maya, but today she was grateful for the distraction. "Thanks for the confidence boost." She rubbed her eyes, already red from staring at ancient cuneiform translations. "I keep having these weird dreams about, don't tell me, more mysterious underground cities? Maya, you need to get out more. Maybe try dating someone who isn't 3,000 years dead." She was about to argue when her laptop chimed. An email from Dr. Reeves, her advisor, with the subject line, "Urgent, new site discovery. Maya, need you and Derek at the Field Museum immediately. We've uncovered something unprecedented beneath the Lower Wacker construction site. Bring your linguistic analysis tools. This could change everything." An hour later, they stood in the museum's basement laboratory, staring at artifacts that shouldn't exist, stone tablets covered in script that predated known writing systems, golden artifacts of impossible complexity, and at the center of it all, a black obsidian mirror that seemed to absorb light. Carbon dating puts the organic materials at roughly 8,000 years old. "Dr." Reeves explained. His usual academic composure cracked with excitement. "But the metallurgy is beyond anything we've seen from that period. The writing system appears to be a precursor to both Sumerian and Egyptian hieroglyphs, but it's far more sophisticated." Maya approached the obsidian mirror, drawn by an inexplicable pull. The moment her reflection appeared in its surface, the world tilted. "You have returned." The voice didn't come through her ears, but resonated in her bones. Around her, the laboratory faded, replaced by a vast underground chamber illuminated by streams of golden light that flowed like water through channels carved into living rock. "Maya." Derek's voice sounded distant, muffled. She tried to turn toward him but found herself walking deeper into the vision, toward a throne carved from a single massive emerald. "I am Theronka, the Dreambringer, keeper of the threshold between worlds. For millennia, I have slept beneath your city, waiting for the one who could bridge the gap between what was and what is." The figure on the throne was both terrible and beautiful humanoid, but wrong, with too many joints, skin that shifted between shadow and starlight, and eyes like distant galaxies. When it spoke, Maya understood that she wasn't hearing words but having concepts placed directly into her mind. "Your people forgot me when they chose to build upward instead of inward, when they preferred concrete dreams to the ones I could weave for them. But you, child of two worlds, daughter of the threshold, you remember in your sleep what your waking mind denies." "I don't understand," Maya whispered, surprised to find her voice. "Your grandmother's grandmother came from the mountains where my first temple stood. Your bloodline carries the memory of devotion, even if your conscious mind has forgotten. You dream my dreams because you are the last who can." Images flooded her mind. Ancient peoples who built their cities in harmony with underground rivers of power, who understood that consciousness could be shaped like clay, who worked with forces that modern science couldn't measure. And through it all, Therenka, not demanding worship, but offering partnership, showing them how to make their dreams manifest in reality. But power corrupts, even among the wise. My priests began to use the dream weaving for control instead of creation. They forgot that consciousness must be freely shaped, never forced. The people turned away, and rightly so. I withdrew, hoping that time would teach wisdom. Maya felt the weight of millennia pressing against her mind. What do you want from me? Your world faces a crisis of imagination. Your people have built wonders but forgotten how to dream them into being. They create without consciousness, build without meaning. The result is a world of marvels that satisfy no one. She thought of her own life, the endless cycle of research and publication, the constant feeling that something essential was missing despite all her achievements. I offer partnership, not domination. Help me bridge the gap between the ancient wisdom and modern understanding. Show your people that consciousness and creation can work together, that dreams and reality need not be enemies. Maya. Derek's voice was urgent now, accompanied by the sound of medical equipment. She's been standing there for 20 minutes, completely unresponsive. Her vitals are... The vision began to fade, but therein, Ka's presence lingered. Choose carefully. Last dreamer. The door I offer opens both ways. You can bring my gifts to your world, but you must also bring your world's skepticism to me. I have slept too long to trust my own perspective entirely. Maya gasped, stumbling backward from the mirror. Dr. Reeves caught her arm, while Derek waved a paramedic away. I'm fine, she said, though she wasn't sure that was true. I need to study these artifacts more carefully. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into the research with an intensity that worried her friends. She learned that the script was indeed a precursor to known writing systems, but it operated on principles that combined phonetic elements with what could only be described as emotional resonance. Each symbol carried not just meaning but feeling, creating a form of communication that engaged the entire consciousness. The golden artifacts, when properly understood, were tools for focusing and directing mental energy. Not magic in the fantasy sense, but technology based on principles that modern neuroscience was only beginning to discover ways to use focused intention to influence quantum probability, to make the improbable inevitable through disciplined imagination, and the obsidian mirror. It was a window into what Therenka called the dream substrate, the layer of reality where possibility became actuality, where consciousness interfaced with the fundamental forces that shaped existence. Maya began to experiment carefully. Starting small, she'd focus on the mirror and dream of finding exactly the research grant she needed. And the next day, an email would arrive from a foundation she'd never heard of. She'd visualize perfect weather for a crucial excavation, and clouds would part at precisely the right moment. Derek noticed the changes. You're different lately. More. I don't know. More present somehow. Like you're finally doing what you're supposed to be doing. She was. For the first time in her life, Maya felt truly awake. But with awakening came responsibility. Therenka hadn't lied about the danger. The power was real, and it would be easy to abuse. The test came when her department head, Dr. Morrison, tried to shut down the project. He'd grown suspicious of their unprecedented string of successes and wanted to claim credit for the discovery. Maya felt Therenka's presence in her mind, offering ways to make Morrison forget his objections, to reshape his consciousness until he became an ally instead of an obstacle. No, she said aloud, startling Derek. "That's not how we do this." Instead, she wrote a paper. Not just any paper, but one that wove together archaeology, neuroscience, quantum physics, and consciousness studies in ways that no one had attempted before. She submitted it simultaneously to multiple journals, knowing that academic politics would make publication unlikely. But something strange happened. Editors who normally dismissed interdisciplinary work found themselves oddly compelled by her arguments. Peer reviewers discovered connections they'd never considered. Within months, Consciousness as Archaeological Tool, Rediscovering Ancient Technologies of Mind, was published in 3 separate journals and sparked heated debates across multiple fields. The attention brought funding, collaboration offers, and most importantly, other people who'd had similar experiences. Maya began to realize that Therenka hadn't been sleeping alone. There were other forgotten entities stirring beneath the foundations of the modern world, other people beginning to remember dreams that felt more real than reality. She established the Institute for Consciousness Archaeology, using Therenka's guidance to create a space where ancient wisdom and modern knowledge could meet on equal terms. The work was slow, careful, always mindful of the ethical implications. They developed protocols for working with consciousness-based technologies, created safeguards against abuse, and most importantly, taught people how to distinguish between authentic inspiration and mere wishful thinking. Years later, standing in the Institute's main laboratory built above the chamber where Therenka rested, Maya reflected on how much had changed. The world hadn't been transformed overnight, but it was transforming. Architecture that incorporated consciousness principles was creating buildings that genuinely improved their inhabitants' well-being. Artists were rediscovering techniques for creating works that touched the viewer's soul as well as their senses. Scientists were developing technologies that worked with human consciousness instead of ignoring it. "You have done well, last dreamer," Therenka's voice whispered in her mind. "Though I think perhaps you are not the last after all." Maya smiled, watching her newest graduate student work with the obsidian mirror. The young man had the same combination of skeptical rigor and openness to possibility that the work required. And in his eyes, she could see the familiar spark of someone whose dreams were becoming more real than reality. "No," she agreed silently. "Not the last. Maybe the first of many." Outside, Chicago stretched toward the sky, its glass and steel towers reaching for heights that the ancient peoples had never imagined. But beneath the city, in chambers carved from living rock, older dreams stirred and whispered of partnerships between human ambition and forces beyond human understanding. The age of forgotten gods was ending. The age of remembered possibilities had begun.